My dear child, there is a reason today carries a different feeling than so many days that came before it. If something led you to this message, even if you cannot explain it, do not ignore that quiet pull inside you. Life often begins shifting long before the evidence becomes visible. Some of the most important changes happen beneath the surface, hidden from view until the right moment arrives. This may be one of those times. Before you reach this exact point in your day, before this moment ever unfolded, someone found themselves thinking about you with an intensity they could not easily dismiss. It was not a fleeting thought that appeared and vanished. It stayed. It returned repeatedly. Each time it resurfaced, it carried a little more weight than before. What began as a small impression gradually transformed into something much more meaningful. Even now, as you hear these words, that feeling continues to grow somewhere beyond your awareness. Do not rush to brush this aside. Something significant is taking shape where you cannot yet see it. There is someone who has reached a point where imagining the future feels incomplete without somehow including you in it. This realization caught them off guard. They never expected their thoughts to travel in this direction. At first, they dismissed it as simple curiosity. They assumed you had merely captured their attention because there was something unique about you. Later, they labeled it admiration. They convinced themselves they simply appreciated certain qualities you possessed. Then they tried reducing it to a collection of small observations. They noticed the way you communicate. They noticed how carefully you listen. They noticed the pauses you take before answering. They noticed how you carry yourself when no one seems to be paying attention. They noticed how your presence lingers in their mind long after you are gone. In the beginning, these details appeared insignificant. They seemed ordinary, almost forgettable. Yet over time, those small observations started connecting together. Piece by piece, they formed a larger picture that became increasingly difficult to ignore. Without realizing it, they began anticipating moments connected to you. Conversations that others would have forgotten remained clear in their memory. Ordinary interactions replayed in their thoughts, and they found themselves searching for deeper meaning within them. Then something happened. There was a particular moment that changed everything for them. You may not even remember it. To you, it may have seemed completely ordinary. Yet for them, it became unforgettable. Perhaps it was a sentence you spoke. Perhaps it was an action you took. Maybe it was a simple gesture of kindness. Maybe it was nothing more than a brief silence shared between you. Whatever it was, it left a lasting mark. Long after that moment passed, they continued returning to it. Days later, it remained vivid. Weeks later, it still occupied space in their thoughts. Even after months, that memory held a special place in their heart. Since then, many ordinary days have been quietly measured against that single experience. Somehow it continues standing above the rest. What makes this even more meaningful is that their thoughts have moved beyond wondering how you are doing. Now they find themselves imagining what life could become if your journey and theirs continued side by side. That thought did not arrive easily. It came after doubt, after hesitation, after countless attempts to convince themselves they were reading too much into their feelings. More than once they told themselves to step back. More than once they tried directing their attention elsewhere. More than once they questioned whether they were imagining something that did not truly exist. Yet every path led back to the same place. The feeling remained. Instead of fading away, it became clearer. Instead of weakening, it grew stronger. What makes this different is that it is not driven solely by emotion. They have thought about it carefully. They have paid attention to what truly matters. They notice how your presence brings calm to situations that might otherwise feel unsettled. They notice how conversations with you stay with them far longer than expected. They notice how memories involving you shine brighter than many major events from their past. These truths have become impossible to overlook. Some people pass through life briefly. Some remain for a season before moving on. But there are rare individuals whose presence begins influencing future decisions before a single word has been spoken about it. You are becoming that kind of person in someone's life. That may explain moments when they appeared unusually quiet. Their silence was not empty. Beneath it, important thoughts were taking shape. Inside that silence, they have been weighing possibilities. What if these feelings are genuine? What if this connection carries real meaning? What if you are not simply a temporary chapter? What if this path is leading somewhere important? Those questions continue returning. Even if they have never spoken them aloud, their behavior has already begun revealing the answers. Perhaps they look for signs of you more often than before. Perhaps they immediately notice when you are absent. Perhaps they remember details that you yourself have forgotten. Perhaps conversations with you continue playing in their mind long after they have ended. None of this is accidental. Something within them has attached deep significance to your presence. And the reason that significance keeps growing is because they recognize something rare in you, something difficult to define, yet impossible to ignore. They see quiet resilience. They see authenticity. They see emotional depth. They see qualities that have become increasingly uncommon. Many people compete for attention. Many people create noise. Many focus only on appearances. But you offer something deeper. You offer substance. You offer honesty. You offer a presence that feels genuine. And that matters far more than you realize. What they feel is not based solely on attraction. It is not sustained only by excitement. It is not dependent upon temporary emotions that come and go. Instead, it is being built upon something stronger, something that feels capable of surviving changing circumstances, shifting emotions, and passing seasons. That is why thoughts about the future arrived sooner than expected. Sometimes the heart recognizes stability before the mind can explain it. Sometimes people sense value long before they understand the reason. That is exactly what has been happening. Even if uncertainty still appears on the surface, they are much closer to understanding their feelings than you may realize. There is also something they have never shared with anyone. More than once, they have imagined speaking openly with you. More than once, they have pictured revealing everything they have been carrying inside. They have imagined how the conversation would begin. They have imagined the words they would choose. They have imagined how you might react. Yet each time they approach that possibility, hesitation appears. Not because their feelings are weak, not because they are unsure, but because it matters. When something becomes deeply important, people become careful. They worry about saying the wrong thing. They worry about moving too quickly. They worry about damaging something precious before it has the opportunity to grow. That is where they stand now, between silence and honesty, between caution and courage, between uncertainty and action, trying to determine when the moment is right. And recently, something happened that strengthened those feelings even more. Maybe there was distance between you. Maybe communication became less frequent. Maybe there was an unexpected period of silence. Or perhaps life simply became busy. Whatever the reason, there came a time when your presence was not as available as it once had been. And during that absence, they discovered something important. They realized how deeply they missed you. Sometimes people only recognize true value when it is temporarily out of reach. Sometimes silence reveals truth that constant closeness keeps hidden. That period of absence revealed something powerful. It showed them that your presence had already become meaningful. It showed them that you occupied far more space in their thoughts than they had ever admitted. It showed them that what they feel is not temporary. That realization carried weight. Because once the possibility of a shared future enters the heart, everything begins to feel more personal. Choices matter more, hopes become stronger, questions become harder to ignore. That is why the idea of building something real has begun appearing more frequently in their mind, not because every answer is already known, not because every outcome is guaranteed, but because something within them no longer wants to treat this lightly. And what is taking place beneath the surface may be greater than it appears. While you continue wondering who could possibly be thinking about you in this way, someone has already started viewing their future differently because you entered their life. Thoughts they expected to fade continue returning. Memories they assumed would disappear remain alive. Questions they believed would pass only grow stronger. Even during the most ordinary moments, your name unexpectedly crosses their mind, interrupting whatever they are doing and reminding them once again of a feeling they can no longer ignore. An ordinary evening suddenly takes on a different meaning when a memory of you unexpectedly returns to their mind. A calm, quiet moment becomes significant because it reminds them of something you once said or did. And each time this happens, they find themselves returning to the same questions. Why does this feel so different? Why does it continue to grow instead of fading away? Why does it remain so strong despite the passing of time? They have searched for answers. They have examined their emotions from every angle. They have questioned themselves repeatedly, hoping to understand exactly what is happening inside them. Yet no matter how carefully they analyze it, they always arrive at the same conclusion. What they feel has substance. In the beginning, they assumed it was simply temporary interest. But then they noticed something important. The feeling survived difficult days. It remained through distractions. It endured periods of distance. It persisted despite uncertainty. And through that persistence, they learned a valuable truth. Feelings that are genuine do not vanish every time circumstances become complicated. Real emotions remain even when life changes. They continue speaking softly within the heart, even when silence seems louder than words. That realization has led them to a question they can no longer avoid. When they imagine the future, would it truly feel complete without you in it? The more they reflect on that question, the harder it becomes to ignore. Because every future they picture somehow feels brighter when you are part of it. Every goal seems more meaningful. Every hope feels more alive. Every possibility carries a deeper sense of excitement. And although they may not fully understand how they arrived at this place, they can no longer deny where they stand. You have become woven into their thoughts. You have become part of their hopes. You have become someone who naturally appears in the future they quietly imagine. That does not mean every outcome has already been determined. It does not mean every step has already been taken. Life still involves timing. Life still involves choices. Life still contains unknowns. Yet something important has already begun. A seed has been planted. An emotion has taken root. A possibility has started growing, and with each passing day it seems to gain more strength. They notice your kindness. They notice your determination. They notice your ability to keep moving forward even when challenges appear. They notice qualities that many others overlook. And the more they observe, the more admiration grows alongside affection. Because what truly captures their attention is not only who you are during your best moments, it is who you consistently choose to be. It is the character revealed in everyday situations. It is the authenticity that shines through when there is no need to impress anyone. Those qualities matter. Those qualities leave a lasting mark. Those qualities have become impossible for them to forget. So while you continue living your life, moving through your days unaware of what is happening elsewhere, understand that somewhere a heart carries thoughts that are becoming harder to silence. A heart is asking questions it never expected to ask. A heart is imagining possibilities it never expected to consider. And day by day those thoughts become clearer. The feeling grows stronger. The picture becomes easier to understand. What began as a passing thought has transformed into something meaningful. What began as curiosity has developed into connection. What began as attention has become significance. And what started quietly continues expanding one moment at a time. The story is still being written. The future remains unknown. But one truth has already become clear. You matter more than you realize. Your presence has touched someone's life more deeply than you know, and even now, that truth continues living within their heart. Recently, they noticed something about you that reached far beyond appearances, conversations, or simple attraction. They began recognizing qualities that cannot be measured by first impressions alone. They saw how you navigate uncertainty. They saw how you continue moving forward when answers are unclear. They saw how you remain grounded during situations that might overwhelm others. That quiet strength stayed with them long after those moments ended. They kept thinking about it. The memory followed them into ordinary days. It resurfaced during peaceful moments. It appeared when they least expected it. Gradually, a new understanding began taking shape. This was not a passing thought. This was not a temporary fascination. This was not something destined to disappear with time. Instead, it became something they returned to repeatedly, with honesty, care, and sincerity. A possibility began growing within them. The possibility that this connection entered their life for a reason too important to dismiss. And with every day that passes, that possibility feels a little more real. That realization changed everything. It became a turning point they never anticipated. Since then, something inside them has been shifting little by little. Not the kind of change others immediately notice. It happens quietly beneath routine conversations, behind familiar habits, and inside ordinary moments that seem unchanged from the outside. They no longer wonder whether you left a lasting impression. They already know the answer. There is no question that you have become unforgettable. The question they carry now is far deeper. They wonder whether they are finally ready to move closer to what they have been feeling before too much time slips away. They ask themselves whether continuing to wait still serves any purpose. They question whether silence is protecting them, or simply postponing something they can no longer ignore. These thoughts continue returning because the feeling itself refuses to disappear. This stage is more significant than most people realize. It is the point where someone begins protecting a feeling before they ever speak about it. It is the moment when emotions quietly become stronger than words. The heart starts making decisions long before the voice finds the courage to explain them. That is why conversations may still seem ordinary. Their actions may still appear calm and controlled. Nothing dramatic may be visible on the surface, yet beneath that calm exterior, something powerful is happening. Their heart is speaking louder than ever. They may laugh, smile, and continue with daily life as usual, but afterward, they return to those moments in their thoughts. They replay your words. They remember the sound of your voice. They recall your expressions. They notice details most people would overlook entirely. Things that once seemed ordinary now carry meaning. Though they appear patient outwardly, inwardly they are paying attention to everything. Small changes catch their attention. Every interaction feels important. Every shared moment becomes something worth holding on to. And when they choose silence, that silence should never be mistaken for indifference. Sometimes silence carries the deepest feelings. Sometimes silence exists because a person realizes how valuable something has become and fears making a mistake. There are times when silence is not distance at all. It is simply the heart becoming more careful than ever before. There is another reason their thoughts have begun reaching further into the future. By now they understand that you are not merely another passing person in their life. Not because everything has been perfect, not because every question has been answered, not because every challenge has disappeared, but because your presence gives them something increasingly rare, a sense of emotional certainty. It is difficult for them to explain. They cannot fully describe why it exists. Yet, with every passing day, that certainty grows stronger rather than weaker. There is also a thought they rarely admit, even to themselves. Occasionally, they imagine what might happen if someone else reached your heart before they found the courage to reveal their own feelings. That possibility affected them far more deeply than they expected. It forced them to confront a truth they had been avoiding. The idea of losing the opportunity to discover what this connection could become feels heavier than they ever imagined. They tried convincing themselves there was plenty of time. They told themselves there was no need to rush. Yet that quiet fear kept returning until it became impossible to ignore. The realization followed them everywhere. It appeared during peaceful evenings. It lingered through busy days. It surfaced even when they were surrounded by other people. No matter how occupied they became, the thought always returned. Because of this, they have become more aware of the smallest details. They notice subtle changes in your voice. They recognize shifts in your energy. They sense when you seem closer. They notice when you appear distant. Even the smallest differences no longer go unnoticed, not because they seek control, not because they are inventing feelings that do not exist, but because when someone begins imagining another person as part of their future, even the smallest signs begin carrying significance. Tiny moments start speaking louder than grand gestures. Perhaps what surprises them most is how visible these feelings have quietly become. There are days when hearing from you completely changes their mood. A simple message remains in their thoughts for hours. An ordinary conversation becomes the highlight of the day. A kind response leaves them smiling long afterward. Sometimes the smallest interaction brings more joy than anything else that happened. Feelings like these rarely emerge without reason. The heart does not return to the same person repeatedly unless something meaningful is steadily growing beneath the surface. There is another truth they have barely admitted to themselves. They trust the feeling they experience around you more than many promises they hear from others. That trust was not created overnight. It grew slowly. It grew through consistency, through observation, through countless small moments that seemed insignificant at the time but later became cherished memories. Eventually they realized something undeniable. Your presence does not create confusion. It creates clarity. It brings peace. It awakens curiosity. It inspires genuine excitement about what tomorrow might hold. Because of that, they no longer see you as only part of the present. Their thoughts naturally move beyond today, beyond temporary circumstances, beyond brief conversations, beyond passing situations. They wonder what remains if time continues moving forward while these feelings continue deepening. And each day the answer becomes a little clearer. The reason they think about the future more often now is because something deep inside them believes your arrival happened exactly when it was meant to. Before meeting you, they may have ignored feelings like these. Before meeting you, they may have walked away before giving something meaningful a chance to grow. Before meeting you, protecting themselves felt easier than opening their heart. They built walls that felt safe, yet those same walls kept genuine connection at a distance. Now, something has changed. Instead of retreating, they remain. Instead of avoiding these emotions, they allow themselves to understand them. Instead of pushing everything aside, they let their feelings develop naturally. And whenever someone stops running from what their heart continues revealing, life begins changing in unexpected ways. That is why the next chapter of this story may unfold differently than either of you imagined. What has remained hidden for so long cannot stay hidden forever. Something is gradually moving closer, something thoughtful, something sincere, something honest. The person carrying these feelings is far closer to certainty today than they were yesterday. Confusion is beginning to fade. Doubt is slowly losing its influence, and in its place, something new is emerging. A quiet decision, a decision shaped by patience, reflection, time, and a growing sense of certainty that strengthens with every passing day. It is becoming increasingly difficult for them to convince themselves these feelings are insignificant. Some emotions disappear when ignored, some fade with time. But there are certain feelings that return stronger every time someone tries to bury them beneath silence. This has become one of those feelings.